They left, turning their backs and walking away as if you were nothing more than a fleeting shadow, easily discarded. They whispered their doubts, convinced you would crumble in their absence, underestimating you, thinking you were weak, and believing you would wither without them. They left thinking they had taken power, worth, and validation from you, but what they didn't realize was that, in that very moment, they gave you something far greater. At first, the silence was unbearable. The void they left felt endless, like an open wound refusing to heal. The people who once filled your days with laughter and warmth were gone, and in their absence, darkness seeped into your soul, whispering lies you almost believed. You questioned if you were enough, if you had ever been enough, and whether they were right to leave. The nights blurred into mornings, but the ache remained. You replayed their words, their departure, the emptiness, as if searching for a reason, begging the universe for answers. Why did they leave? And yet the most haunting question wasn't why they left, but why they always come back. Why do the people who abandoned you suddenly remember your name when the dust settles? Why do they regret walking away when it's too late? In their minds, you were just a character in their story, a stepping stone, a disposable chapter, never expecting you to be the plot twist. They never imagined that one day they'd look back and realize they lost what they spent their lives searching for. They thought they were leaving you behind, but in reality, they set you free. Free from their expectations, free from their doubts, free from the weight of being something you were never meant to be. Their absence didn't break you. It became the fire that forged you into something they could no longer control, a presence they could no longer ignore. And now, as they watch from a distance, they begin to understand the regret creeps in. The realization dawns on them, you weren't the one who lost, they were. The night they walked away, something inside you shattered. It wasn't just their presence that disappeared. It was the certainty you once had, the belief that they would always be there. The world didn't stop, the sun still rose, and the streets buzzed with life, but for you everything shifted. You became invisible in a world that no longer saw you, and their absence wasn't just a missing piece. It was a consuming void, stretching deeper than you ever thought possible. The silence was the worst part. Not just the silence they left behind, but the silence of the world around you. The world that moved on without asking how you were, without reaching out to pick up the pieces. You realize people don't grieve the ones they walk away from, and the pain of being forgotten settled in your chest like a stone. Even in their absence, their voices haunted you. You heard them in quiet moments, their words like ghosts whispering, "You weren't enough. You were replaceable. You will never make it without us." You almost believed them. How could they be wrong? If you were worth staying for, wouldn't they have stayed? If you were worth fighting for, wouldn't they have fought? The logic was cruel, but it was all you had, and so you sank into the questions, the pain, and the suffocating belief that maybe, just maybe, you were destined to be nothing. The nights stretched into an abyss, each one darker than the last. But then, here's the truth they never wanted you to see. They left because they thought they had control. They believed their absence would bind you. Their approval was the air you breathed, and their presence defined your worth. They convinced themselves they held the power, that you would crumble without them. But for a while they were right, only for a while. Power isn't given, it's claimed, and they were about to learn. You were never meant to stay broken. The loneliness was an entity, an overwhelming presence, and the world outside continued as if nothing had changed, while your world collapsed in silence. No one reached into the darkness to pull you out, and their absence was louder than their presence ever was. The thought burrowed into your mind, feeding off your self-doubt, but then came the anger. It started quiet, but it grew. You began moving differently, slowly, but defiant. You stopped searching for their validation, questioning why you needed them in the first place. The ember of defiance turned into a fire. One day you looked in the mirror and saw someone who had been through hell and was still standing. Someone abandoned, but not destroyed. Underestimated, but not erased. The realization hit. You don't need them. You never did. Something shifted. The pain that once weighed you down became fuel. You stopped seeing their absence as a loss and recognized it as a gift. Without them, without their betrayal, you dug deeper into yourself and realized your true capabilities. The first steps were shaky. Healing isn't a straight road. But instead of running from the pain, you started using it. Every doubt they planted in you became a challenge. Every moment of loneliness, an opportunity to reconnect with yourself. You no longer sought validation. You stepped into something greater, unstoppable. Then, the rebirth began. It wasn't about rebuilding, but becoming something entirely new. You didn't just heal, you transformed. Like a phoenix, you emerged, not as a reflection of your past, but as a force they never saw coming. The people who thought you would crumble were now forced to watch as you became everything they never believed you could be. The whisperers started. They noticed the shift, the fire in your eyes, the confidence in your steps. They began to regret walking away. They didn't just lose you, they lost everything you were destined to become. And now, no matter how much they wish they could turn back time, it's too late. The person they abandoned no longer exists. The one who stands in their place, that's their biggest regret. They come back with carefully crafted words, but they missed the version of you that needed them, not the person you've become. Now you are the one who got away. The power dynamic shifted, and the burden of loss is on them. They replay moments, wondering what could have been. The greatest justice isn't in revenge, is in indifference. You don't need closure from them. Their regret is your closure. Every moment they spend looking back is confirmation that you were never the one who lost. You didn't have to prove anything. You simply existed, and that was enough. Your success, strength, and ability to rise beyond their expectations, that is their torment. They walked away thinking you were fragile, but they never accounted for the fire they ignited. The message has come, a simple attempt to re-enter your life, but you don't need their apologies, their explanations. You've changed. You don't need closure, you are free, not just from them, but from the version of yourself that once longed for their presence, approval, and love. You walk in your own legacy now, one they will never be part of. You hold the pen. The narrative is yours to write. You are no longer a side character in someone else's story. You are the main character now. Success was never about revenge. It was about proving you were always enough. And now, they will spend their lives chasing what they lost.